I live in a small village on the border of Germany and the Netherlands. One night, I was testing my new night vision camera for a school project. Wolves are returning to the Netherlands from Germany, and it's been all over the news. I wanted to get a good photo of them. There is a particularly large tree in the woods near a hill called the Tankenberg. One night, I decided it would be a good place to affix my new camera. When I came back the next day to look at the pictures, I found nothing but birds and small deer. 400 pounds seems like a lot of money to spend spying on birds, so I was disappointed. Not wanting to give up, I repeated this for a week or two to find nothing more than birds, deer, and some hogs. I proceeded to send all the pictures to a project partner and close friend from school for further review. The next day, I returned from a family dinner to see that I received 3 emails from my friend. 2 of them are about some rare birds, but in the last email, he urges me to look at one of the pictures I took a week ago. I open the image and see what appears to be a feral ghoul from the Fallout games riding a hog. I begin to lose my shit a bit and frantically call my friend. What do I do? I ask. Go to the police? No, he responds. What are they gonna do? Look for a Dr. Seuss character riding a pig in your woods? He was right. It was a waste of time. The next day at school, we couldn't stop talking about the photo. I was too afraid to show anyone else. I feared they might think I lost my mind. But my friend showed it. His family seems to think it's funny. When I got back home for the weekend, I decided to show the image to my mother. To my shock, she says she's seen illustrations just like it. That Grandpa used to tell stories about a man riding a hog. This all seems a bit on the nose, and it gave me chills down my spine. The next day, I decided to go see Gramps. He poured me a shot of gin, as always, and I begin to ask him about the guy riding the hog. At first, he plays dumb, but a few drinks in, and probably amused at my insistence, he gives me a knowing smirk. He then proceeds to tell me about a spirit called DERK, who rides a hog. He is a sort of protector of these woods. He also tells me about an old farmer being cursed for shooting a rifle at God on Christmas Eve. Gramps goes to the bookshelf to get an old, leathery-looking book with gold ornaments. It was filled with stories about local folklore like dwarves, water monsters, and witches. Under the chapter, Wild Hunt, I found multiple stories about DERK. Some about the cursed farmer, and one about him being a god from pagan times. Weird Viking stuff. DERK is a strange name for a god, I say to the old man. He just smiles and replies, that's not his real name. You can't speak his real name. It will bring misfortune. Even just seeing the wild hunt is a bad omen. My grandma overhears us talking about the spirit. She looks at us and says, wasn't his name Fro or Frey or something? In one fluid motion, my grandpa jumps out of his chair and begins to raise his voice, which is not like him. You don't speak his name, he exclaims. What did I just tell you? I had no idea my grandpa was this superstitious. Once he calmed down, I showed him the picture I took of the thing in the woods. He has a grave look on his face. Even has the spear, he mumbles after a long silence. He was right. You can almost make out a spear behind the figure. But he's missing his war horn, continued Grandpa. Horn? I asked with fascination. He turns the page of the book, and I see an illustration of a Germanic-looking man riding a hog. He's holding a spear and blowing a horn. What does the horn do? I ask. He only tells me that it helps him hunt, and Grandpa doesn't want to talk anymore after that. A couple of days later, I am back home doing some research on DERK. Turns out almost every Germanic country has its own name for him. In the Netherlands and Germany, they call him Fro or Frey, and in the Scandinavian countries, they call him Freyr. He's some sort of fertility god. Turns out, there is a small pagan temple on the Tankenberg where I had taken the photos. It is dedicated to a goddess named Tamfana. My curiosity gets the better of me, and I have to go see it. There's not much there, just a small reconstruction of the temple and a nice view of the forest. While in the area, I encounter some locals that live near the temple and proceed to ask them about Tamfana. They proudly tell me about their goddess of harvest and nature. I ask them about DERK too. Apparently, every Christmas Eve, they round up all their belongings and bring them inside their home, because if you don't have your stuff together at midnight, DERK will come and wreak havoc on you, whatever that means. Are there people who have seen Fro? I ask. The man looks at me as if I've deeply disrespected him. Never say that name, he barks. With that, he walks off. It was one of the weirdest interactions I've ever had. A week passes, and some farmer on local news says that he had seen a man on a hog. I try desperately to contact the man, but no response is ever received. The next day, I ask around until I get his address, and decide to ride to his home. There was nobody present, and I returned the way I came, dejected. 3 days later, I learned that the farmer had committed suicide, and begin to get extremely creeped out. Due to the seriousness of all this, I decide to go to the police and show them the image I took of the deity. They take some more info from me, like the location and date the photo was taken. That night, I can't sleep. I'm too busy thinking of Fro and his hog. At 4 a.m., I am startled by a loud knock at my door. I am surprised to see some official-looking men at my house. I assumed they were with the government or the police. They seize my camera, my phone, my laptop. They want to know if I have any more pictures stored on my hard drive. I adamantly tell them I do not, but they insist on taking it anyway. Luckily, I backed up all my images on my Google Drive, so I still have the image of the supposed god. A few weeks later, Grandpa passed away. Grandma said he wasn't doing so well lately. I can't help the paranoia. It must have something to do with DERK. The government must be hiding something. Recently I've purchased some new cameras, and I've been spending all my free time in the forest around Tankenberg. My studies are suffering, and I'm questioning my path in life. All I want to do is watch my cameras. Watch for DERK. I will prove he's out there.